Alright, welcome back to day number 19, 20, and 21, where I show you how the sausage is made. In this case, the sausage is an independent game. The reason I combined all three of these days into one video is because I haven't really had anything super exciting to show, so this is kind of a big update because it's 3 days worth of content. The main thing I've been working on today is creating an AI system for the enemy controlled aircraft. Initially when I was trying to think of my approach for how I was going to handle the artificial intelligence for this guy, I thought I would just survey the whole entire scene, find the very best attackable target to engage, and then I'd write a whole bunch of programming script to choose your best velocity and orientation for the given target. And it started to get kind of complicated because I wanted the AI to have kind of like this seemingly intelligent but emergent type of attack pattern behavior, and to have to script all that stuff out mathematically was going to start looking pretty disgusting in terms of complexity. And complexity is evil, as we all know. Complexity is what gets you stuck on problems that are probably too difficult and shouldn't be solved anyway. So if you are thinking about things way too with too much complexity, then your game will never see the light of day, and you'll never launch, and you'll never make money. So I say again, complexity is evil. Anyway, I'll give you a really quick demo of the approach that I came up with. Basically what we do is we have our airplane with a radar, which is this kind of like highlighted sphere over here. And he's constantly looking at any objects within that zone. And those are going to be his attackable targets, assuming that they are of the enemy faction, of course. So once you have your list of targets, you evaluate the value of each target to find the most high value target to attack. And this is all just hard-coded in, and once you find the most high value target, you look for the targets that are closest to you, and then you pick the most high value target that's closest to you. And then based off of that target type, you're going to select a particular attack pattern that is suited for attacking that type of target. So for example, up here I've got a drone, which is a simulated airplane that just moves back and forth. And I have a figure 8 attack pattern attached to it. The path that your character will follow is this white path, and when he is in that red zone is when he begins his attack. And you can approach this from any angle, so I just have these attack paths extended a little bit, so even after you pass the target, then you will continue attacking. This is just kind of like more for testing and placeholder stuff, so I might actually have a attack pattern that involves you actually not flying through the target, and maybe you kind of like approach closely, and then you're doing your attack, and then as you get close you just veer off and go off somewhere else. I found that tracing out these attack paths is actually the easiest way to do this, because I don't have to actually write any math to accomplish this. If you have like ground targets such as buildings, then we can do like some cool little dive bomb attack where you go up and then you come down in a steep dive, drop your bomb, and then you fly off again. So I'll give you a really quick demo on what this looks like. Here's our airplane doing his dive bomb attack. He does his dive, and then he flies off. And if the target is alive, he continues his attack, and he continues doing the same attack pattern until the target is dead. Of course, this is like super rough. I'm just trying to get the path following to work correctly. And I think I've got it. Now the next thing to do is actually align the aircraft with the direction of movement, and then to also actually perform the attack itself. I also created two types of other aircraft. One of them is a carpet bomber. He's going to drop a whole bunch of bombs on this tank. Pew, pew, pew. And it is super destructive. I should also add another tank so that you can see the troop transport craft. So I do have airplane spawning now, so if you have either transports or bomber aircraft as your supply, then they will kind of like spawn in this random region kind of in the back, and then they will fly over the battlefield. So these guys are like slow moving, juicy targets that are easy to shoot down but devastating for the enemy faction if they survive. This bomber is based off of the B-17, which was one of the most frequently made aircraft during World War II. There he goes, super devastating. And then this is our troop transport plane, who drops infantry with parachutes, and they've got this really cool little downward movement pattern. And it was actually relatively easy to set this up. It's just two different sine curves, and then they march off to their targets, and then the tank drives over them and they all get squished. Of course the tank isn't driving, but you get the idea. So the tank's got this front bumper on it, so if he encounters an enemy troop, they just automatically get squished, and I'll play a cool visual effect. And he gets squished too. And we've got more troops being dropped. So one thing I didn't do is look at the supply counts. So this troop aircraft will just drop troops even though you have the max supply of troops already on the battlefield. So it's currently a little overpowered, but whatever. Oh, now we're gonna bomb the enemy target here. And then I found an issue, and this is more of a design issue rather than a bug, but our land crawler is way too big to actually follow the contours of the terrain, and you've got some ridiculous clipping issues, right? So I've got these axles on the land crawler that are always matching the height of the terrain, so or it's actually just trying to do its best, and it gets pretty ugly looking. So what this means is that the size of the land crawler is way too big for the type of terrain that we have. So for any of the terrain that's going to be traversable by the land crawler, it's got to be pretty flat. And this is going to put some pretty serious design constraints on the types of levels that we can design. Seeing this, I also put in, wow, that's getting kind of loud. I put in a bunch of areas where the land crawler will stop. So if he gets to like a region where you have impassable terrain, then he will just stop at that location and commence his Giga Cannon bombardment. Anyway, we are getting to the point where we've got some pretty interesting functional gameplay. So I think in the next few updates we're going to be looking at importing a whole bunch of different models and assets that are going to actually go into the final game. So everything that you see right here is all just like placeholder art to just make sure that the programming and the gameplay works, and we've got interesting game mechanics. So we're going to be slowly moving out of the prototyping phase and into a more of a polish and production phase. So I think in the future, the next updates are going to be a lot more beautiful looking. So anyway, I think it's pretty exciting to see how far this game has come in the month and a half that I've been working on it. I tentatively think, in terms of production schedules, this easily has another 2 to 4 weeks worth of work. So I know I say 2 to 4 weeks, but in like real no shit developer terms, that's actually going to mean like 2 to 4 months, because any estimates by developers are always super optimistic and rosy, and never expecting any showstoppers or hitches along the way, which is something that extends development timelines. And also, development never takes into consideration the true complexity of certain tasks. So you might think that something takes 2 days, but it really takes 10 days because it was more complicated than you thought. Anyway, I go into that in other videos, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse again. So that's it for this update. I look forward to new ones. I think it's going to get pretty exciting here quickly. I'm excited to start integrating the art and move into actually doing level design. So I think we're going to actually have some very beautiful gameplay in the next few updates. Thanks. I'll see you next time, and stay tuned for the next update. Bye.